And now it is time for Jody's Gems, brought to you by Edie Marshall Jewelers. We appreciate their support and appreciate Jody jumping on. And Jody, they always say you need some pressure to make a diamond. You also need to overcome some pressure on the road in the NFL to win football games. Cardinals able to do exactly that against the 49ers. What jumped out to you about this big win on the road for the Bird Gang?
Well, Jordan, it's huge. It's a big upset. And yeah, that pressure created, I guess you could say, diamonds. The Cardinals came out sparkling like my E.D. Marshall necklace that I'm wearing right now. So, you know what? They were incredible. The fact that they were down and had a bunch of mishaps really happen in that game and yet had enough belief to come back. And yeah, Kyler Murray was caught on camera looking really frustrated, but weren't we all? I mean, when you think about it, that was, of course, after the blocked kick because they didn't have Matt Prater. They had Chad Ryland, who ended up being a hero in this game. But the low trajectory of that kick earlier in the game in that first half created the blocked opportunity that went back for a touchdown. And at that point, that combined with a couple of other plays, including, Trey McBride had a touchdown basically in his hands, couldn't hang on to it. It's crazy because they come off of 3 home games where they dropped 2 of the 3 and then they go on the road in this incredibly hot day. And it's just one of those things that they pulled it off. And I'm excited to see what it means for them. They're 2-3. The Niners are also 2-3 and have the Seahawks on a short week now. And I think, for me, it just shows, and Mac Wilson had mentioned this after the game, that this feeling can be contagious.
Mm.
That's what I want to know is, are they going to be able, now that they've tasted this adversity, the Rams, as great as that win was, they didn't really have a lot of adversity there. They were, trouncing them. Now, does this become contagious within that group? What can we do when we're down? What happens? What's our mentality? And I love that. And I hope that they're able to turn that into something next week in Green Bay.
And something that was a bit of an outlier for him earlier in the year, Kyler Murray tucking and running. He had a huge 50-yard touchdown, ended the day 80 plus yards. We haven't seen necessarily that side of Kyler since he came back from his injury. How do you think that opens things up for the offense, just knowing the threat now that we always know that he was capable of doing it, but now putting it on film against a really good defense?
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that's key. Last week, only getting 1 carry for 3 yards, and Kyler Murray calling his own number. That's going to work for the Cardinals. That's going to be a recipe for success, and it was today. Obviously, the big chunk there was that 50-yarder where he had his finger in the sky pointing up and kind of celebrating right away because he knew he was going to outrun everyone. I loved how James Conner sounded a little bit concerned about that after the game, but he said, you know what, he's fast enough to know he's going to outrun everyone. So, for Kyler Murray, just to see that confidence to be able to run the ball. And then there were a few unscheduled runs as well. So that was big. And I think Drew Petzing knows that too, is that that's something that has to happen for this Cardinals team. That's that added threat that helps them fulfill the type of offense they can become. And we saw it on the touchdown to Elijah Higgins, which was pivotal. That's what made this game after 23-21 is that he sold the run very well, Kyler. And then it was bottled up, goes back, tosses the ball to Higgins, who's been a nice weapon for them as well in the tight end room. And that was a huge play as well when Kyler's, selling that threat of the run and then can hurt them in the pass.
Over the past couple of years, it feels like even if you don't necessarily know how good the Cardinals are 5, 6 weeks in, you know their identity. I feel like it's been hard to put our finger on the identity of this team. 5 games in, how would you describe the identity of this year's team?
Well, it's interesting. With recency bias of the game that I just watched against the Niners, I would say what I love is that Drew Petzing dialed up James Conner in the run game late in that game, and for better or worse, was continually handing the ball off to James Conner. And even one play where I noticed he ran into Higgins and I think it was McBride even too. I mean, he ran into a few of his own guys, and he still
Mhm.
kept plowing forward. We saw him on the 2-point conversion talk about being his own blocker there. And he was stuffed, but kept moving to the left and got into the end zone. That was huge. So I think as much as there's a lot of flash and dash here with Kyler, and we can, hopefully we're going to see more with Marvin Harrison Jr. We've seen glimpses of what that looks like. I think that the toughness and the physicality, because you know what? We saw it last year as well. We saw this team pile up 200 plus yards on the ground against the Niners. It was a loss. And then in this game, you see Connor being able to run it in a win that's much more satisfying. It really is the only thing that matters if you can pull off the win. So I think they'd like it to be the physicality, but I'm going to say stay tuned on that, Jordan, because you have to do it week in and week out to have it be your identity.